Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is daf Pei Dawid 84 in Bava Metzia. We are on the last line of Pei Gimel and Mabet, and I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. So here's where we're at. Yesterday we concluded with a story about how Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, and he was the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So, which is, of course, part of this time of year we celebrate Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai on Lag BaOmer, and that will actually, which is this Sunday. So maybe you could say that this is a nice Daf Yomi coincidence, although it's only this Sun that we'll be talking about. Although Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai himself will make an appearance during today's Daf. But in any event,
Rabbi Shimon's son Elazar is also at Meron. His remains are also at Meron.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But nobody thinks about them. But
but they're right next to each other.
Correct. And actually, the Gemara today is going to specifically discuss that. So you're absolutely right. Thank you for noting that and even raising up the Daf Yomi coincidence that we have for today. So okay, but he became a police officer. Can you imagine that? A Jewish police officer, and he wasn't a police officer for a Jewish state. He was a police officer for the non-Jewish state, and he would catch thieves and he would turn them over. You know what they did with people who stole money in the days of the Gemara? You won't believe this. They killed them. Can you believe that? That's pretty terrible.
We used to hang horse thieves in the United States.
That's probably true. So in any event, the point is that we're now going to pick up on the bottom line of Pei Gimel
on the subject of Jewish police officers. There was a time at HR, I was there. We had 9 guys in Minyan, and we had a police officer outside, so I went out and asked him if he was Jewish. Turned out he was Jewish.
Amazing.
So he came
awesome.
in and he came in the room and he was the 10th guy for the Minyan.
Awesome. So now we're going to get back to Rabbi Elazar, the police officer, and we're going to learn that he was not the only rabbi to be appointed a police officer. So let's take a look. We're going to begin by introducing Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi. So the Av Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi Mata. Similarly, he once happened, as we turn to Pei Dalet Amud Aleph, Ki Hai Ma'aseh Day. That the same thing happened to him. And as Rashi tells us, top Rashi on Pei Dalet Amud Aleph, Minahu Lamelech, the king appointed him, Litzfos Ganavim Blistim, to grab thieves and highwaymen. So, Eliyahu. So Eliyahu Hanavi came and met him. So Amrlai, Eliyahu said to him, Ad Masai Atamoser Amo Shalalokenu Lahariga. How long are you going to put away the people and cause the death of the people of God? So Amrlai, Rabbi Yishmael said to him, Ma'avid, what am I supposed to do? Harmana Demalkahu. That's what the king ordered. So Amrlai, Avuch Arak La'asya. At Arok Ludkia. Look, your father ran away in order to avoid this kind of thing to Asya. So why don't you run away and you can flee to Ludkia? Meaning the point is that when you're going to be asked to do something that you don't think is the right thing to do, if you're going to be in real trouble, if you stay where you are, you need to take on yourself the obligation to move and go somewhere else. So, Kihavo Miklae, Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Bahadi Adadi. Now, these two guys, Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon, were very, very heavy. They had big bellies. And when they would meet one another, as Rashi says in the second line, beginning of the second line, Lagabi Hadadi, Panim el Panim, and they would face one another, their tummies were so big that Hava Ayol Bakra, the Torah by Naihu, you could have 2 cattle pass between them. That's how big their bellies were. Their bellies were so over the top. I mean, we're talking like Santa Claus big here. So he that's how big they were. So the low Havanagubaho, and it wouldn't even touch them. They would have 2 cows going between them, and they wouldn't even be touched. So Amrlahu Hai Matronisa. So a woman happened to see these 2 guys, these 2 Jewish police officers who happened to be very heavy, and she said to them something very rude. B'neichem einam shelchem. Your children don't belong to you, because how could you possibly have relations with your spouse if you are so heavy? So Amrullah, so they said to her, Shelahen gadol mishalanu. That theirs, meaning their wives, at least at the moment, will say, are even bigger than ours. Now, there are two ways to understand this that Rashi has. One is that it refers to the stomachs of the wives, meaning we just have, we're big people, and so are our spouses. So kosher game. So then the woman said back, well, then even more so, what I'm saying is true. Meaning, both of them are so heavy that how could you possibly engage in anything? So ikad amri haki amrullah. So either they said to her, kiva ish gvurasu, ish gvurasu, that just as a man is, so is his might. Now, two ways to understand that. The simplest is that that if a man is big, well, then all of his parts are big, and he's able to accomplish what he wants. Or no, as big as a man is, that's how big his interest in doing engaging in acts of love is, and as a result, so then he's going to make sure that he's able to do whatever he needs to do in order to be there for his spouse.
The will, there's a way.
If there's a will, there's a way. I like that. Or they maybe have said to her, that love drives back the flesh. So, and here Rashi says, whose love is it? It could be the husband's love, but it could also be the wife's love, the wife's desires, or it could just be, where there's a will, there's a way. So those are a couple of different ways to understand it. Why did they bother answering at all? I mean, this is a very rude person who would say something like that. That's terrible. You shouldn't answer a fool according to their folly. So but they didn't want anybody to speak about their children and say that maybe, look, you didn't answer this woman. Maybe that means that you are not the parents of your children. So that's a story. So Rabbi Yochanan,
there's another spin on this. This was a woman, probably a noblewoman in Rome, and the upper class in Rome were famous for, shall we say, their licentiousness and sex tourism. So this was a very big deal in Roman times, and this shows how uncouth Roman society was.
That is true, but in addition, to the extent my recollection is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that they also engaged in that wasn't where I was going, but they also engaged in eating and then regurgitating in order to be able to eat and more. In which case, they may not have had the biggest bellies, even though they were consuming. So, but in any event, so Rabbi Yochanan says, you know what? Now there are a couple of different ways to understand what we're about to say. Either it refers to the organs that they use for relations, or it's referring to their bellies. So, but either way, here we are going to have what Rabbi Yochanan says. So, I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Evrei de Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi, Kechemes Bas Tesha Kabin. It was like a chemes is like a bag for water, a pitcher for water, but it's made out of skin. So their organ was the size of a 9-kav leather canteen. So Amar Rav Papa said, Evrei de Rabbi Yochanan, and the Ever of Rabbi Yochanan who made that statement, Chemes Bas Chameshes Kabin, was 5 kav. Some people say Bashlosha Kav, and some say it was 3 kav. The Rav Papa Gufei and Rav Papa himself, Kidikuri de Harpanai. It was like a basket from Harpan. So the Tosfos wonders, like, what's going on here? Why are they saying all this? Meaning, why is this written in the Gemara? Especially if it's referring to the organ for sexual relations. So Elu Dvarim Rav Tat Tosos, Elu Dvarim Nichtavu Shalola Hotzi Laz Al Bnei Adam Shehem Kach. the point is that people might actually be concerned and take away from this the fact that that maybe people who are very heavy can't engage in relations, and therefore we should be suspicious of their children. And the answer is we should not. And the point is that and that is the point of sharing this potential detail, even if it might not feel like it belongs in the Gemara. So that is piece number one. And
The
now
smallest estimate for the size of a cob is about 1.4 liters.
1.4 liters. So that again, so you've got to imagine a 1.5 liter bottle.
Yeah.
That's pretty large. So
Yeah, this has got to be exaggeration.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's also certainly understood that this was not meant to be taken literally. All right, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Ana ishtaire mashapiri Yerushalayim." Yeah, so we had one statement of Rabbi Yochanan, so now we give another, and Rabbi Yochanan says that I remain from the radiant people of Yerushalayim. So Haiman debai mechse. If you want to see it, Shofrei de Rabbi Yochanan, the radiance of Rabbi Yochanan, Naisi Casa de Caspa mi silke. Take a silver goblet, that's really just been polished, meaning it's just formed. Un malay partsidaya durumana sumaka, and fill it with the insides of a pomegranate. So you got that beautiful red filling that's sort of with a little bit of liquid on it that's going to glisten really nicely. V'nederle kalilia devarta sumaka lupume, and then put around the rim some red roses. V'nosve bein shimsha latula, and put it on the edge between the sun and the shade. So that way, hahu zarure me'ein shufrei de Rabbi Yochanan. That beauty, that beautiful, radiance of this setup, that will give you some sense of the radiance of Rabbi Yochanan. So, Amy, is that really true? Was he really that radiant that it's worth commenting on? Because V'hamar Mar, when it came to somebody who said Shufrei de Rav Kahana, Me'ein Shufrei de Rabbi Abahu, that Rabbi Kahana's radiance was like that of Rabbi Abahu. Shufrei de Rabbi Abahu, Me'ein Shufrei de Yaakov, and Rabbi Abahu was like Yaakov Avinu. Shufrei de Yaakov Avinu, Me'ein Shufrei de Adam Arishon, and Yaakov was like Adam Arishon. Ve'ilu Rabbi Yochanan lo kachashikle, but we didn't do Rabbi Yochanan in this comparison. So doesn't that show that he must not have been the most radiant? So shiny Rabbi Yochanan de Hadrat Panim lo havile. He did not have a distinction, a distinctive face, which is understood to mean that he didn't have a beard. If you would take a look at Rashi, Hadras Panim, it's about 20 lines down in the narrow lines. Zakein. It didn't have a beard. So
the Gemara in Bracho talks about Rav Yochanan's beauty. He would would watch him. He'd go by.
We're gonna
look at it in for reflection in the pond, and people. It's a whole discussion in Masechta Brachot about him.
100%, and we're gonna get to that one piece right now that is in Brachot Daf Kafam and Aleph. So let's take a look. Rabbi Yochanan,
the being clean shaven was a Roman thing.
Interesting. So that also fits with the fact that he had this interaction with the Roman matron.
Yeah.
And of course, he had given. Oh no, he was okay. So all right, for Rabbi Yochanan. I'm sorry. Rabbi Yochanan wasn't the one who had the interaction with it was Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Shimal. But in any event, you're absolutely right. It makes sense that he would have that conversation about them, given that. All right, but Rabbi Yochanan haba azol b'yosef ash'arei tvila. He would sit next to the gate of the women's mikvah. Amar kisalkan benos Yisrael mitvilas mitzvah. When they would come up from having gone to the mikvah, lifigubi, let them bump into me essentially. And because at the time they thought that whatever you saw and were thinking about during the times of sexual relations, that would affect the appearance of the children that would result. And so they'll end up with children as beautiful as I. Gemiri Oraisa Kavasi, and they'll be able to learn Torah like me. And so the Amrulay Rabban and the rabbi said to him, Lo mistafe mar me'ena bisha, aren't you worried about, the ayin hara? So Amr lahu, ana mizar de Yosef kasina. I come from the seed, I'm come from Yosef. The lo shalta be'ena bisha, because the ayin hara doesn't affect him. Diksiv ben poras Yosef, ben poras ale ayin. That how charming Yosef is, charming to the eye, meaning that the eye won't affect him. Amar Rabbi Abahu, Al tikra ale ayin ella ole ayin. Say it's rising over the eye, so he has control over the eye. So Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, Amar Mehacha, and Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina says, no, you can learn it from this. V'yidgu l'ro b'kerav haaretz. And again, they'll be like dagim, like fish, with the in terms of their numbers. And ma dagim shebiyam mayim mechasim, just as the water covers fish, and you're not able to sort of see into the water and thereby see the fish. Similarly, the ayin hara doesn't have any power over them. Now, just as a point of reference, how is it that he was there looking at the women coming out? Well, the good news is that we actually have another Gemara that we saw. I can't now not remember exactly where it is. The Gemara has a discussion where and it was relatively recently that we saw it. Let me see if they have it in the footnote here. Where Rabbi Yochanan meets somebody who is asking all these great questions, and he is and he's like he has to uncover his eyelashes are so big that he has to remove his eyelashes in order to see the person, and the person had a scowl, that had a mouth deformity that looked like he was scowling at Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan got upset at him and ended up causing his death because of the scowl. So the point is that the point is that unless he took action, he could not see beyond himself, beyond whatever was right in front of him because of his eyelashes. So that's important to understand and to help explain how he could end up sitting there. Okay, but Yom Echad. So now we're going to get, having raised and discussed Rabbi Yochanan's beauty, now we're going to get the famous story of how Rabbi Yochanan met Reish Lakish. So Yom Echad, Hava Kasaki Rabbi Yochanan b'Yardana. So Rabbi Yochanan was swimming in the Jordan. Chazi Reish Lakish saw him, and again, remember how beautiful Rabbi Yochanan was. V'shavar li'Yardan Abasrei, and he jumped into the Jordan after him. Amrlei, Rabbi Yochanan, seeing the strength and vitality of Reish Lakish, said to Reish Lakish, Chelach la'oraisa, you need to use your strength for Torah. Amrlei, Reish Lakish said, Shufrak l'nashe, you need to use your beauty for women. So Amrlei, Rabbi Yochanan said to him, hadratbach, if you return to the Torah, so Yahimnelach Akosi, I'll give you my sister to marry. The Shapira Minai, and she's even more beautiful than I am. So Kabul Alai, so Rabbi Reish Lakish agreed. Boy lemehedar la suyemine. So now Reish Lakish wanted to get out and get back his clothes. The low matzi, he didn't have the strength to get out of the river. So Hadar, because he had now taken on the obligation to perform all the mitzvot, and that obligation is a sapping of strength. So Hadar Akre Ba'asne, and then Rabbi Yochanan taught him Torah and taught him Mishnah, the Shavye Gavra Rabba, and made Rabbi Reish Lakish, into a great man. So Yom Echad, okay, this is now going down many years later. We're going to now see that actually we know that you're not allowed to embarrass somebody by talking about their history if they at one time weren't well behaved. So Yom Echad, and Rabbi Yochanan is going to accidentally do that right now. Havu miflagei be midrash. So they were studying in the base midrash. Hasaya v'hasakim v'hapigyon. A sword, a knife, and a hunting spear. Haromeach umagal yad umagal katzir. When it comes to a spear, a military spear, and the hand sickle and the harvesting sickle, when do they receive tuma? That was the question. So the mishas gemar malachta, when they are finished being produced. So me'emasai gemar malachta. Well, when does that happen? So Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mishi Yotzar fame mikivshan. When once you've tempered them in the furnace. Rish Lakish Amar, no, that's too early. Mishi Yatzchacha Tachzachain b'mayim. You have to dip them into the cold water afterwards, and then they'll be ready. So Amar Le, Rabbi Yochanan said, "Oh, lista say yada." Oh, this guy, that's right. He knows what he's talking about because, of course, he used to be a thief. He used to be a highwayman, and so Amar Le, Rabbi Reish Lakish felt awful as a result of that comment, even though I'm sure Rabbi Yochanan did not mean it in any harsh way. But honestly, how have you benefited me all of this time? I thought that I had become a great man, and now you've belittled me and put me back to where I was. Hasam Rabbi Karuli, they used to call me teacher because I taught them all the ways. I taught all the thieves how to be a good thief. And Rabbi Karuli, and now people call me a Rebbe also. But what difference does it make? You are still treating me like the old kind of Rebbe. Amar Le, one second, I did give you benefit. You are now under the wings of Hashem's presence, and yet Rabbi Yochanan. So now we have both Rabbi Yochanan disappointed in Reish Lakish not seeing the benefit that he gave him of being a Torah student, and Reish Lakish not seeing how and of course Reish Lakish being upset because he felt that he was not treated any different than when he was a chief of thieves. So Chalash daite to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan became so upset, and Chalash Reish Lakish, and Reish Lakish became ill. Asai achte. So Rabbi Yochanan's sister came in front of Rabbi Yochanan because she loved her husband Reish Lakish. So Kavachya, and she cried. Amrale, and she said to her brother, Asay b'shvil banai, listen, pray for Reish Lakish for my children. Amrale, azva yisomecha ani achayeh. Leave your orphans, I will sustain them. Meaning Hashem will take care of them. Here, if Reish Lakish is so despondent and thinks that there is no benefit to having come under the wings of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so then there's nothing for me to do. Essentially, Rabbi Yochanan is saying, Asay b'shvil al-munasi. So fine. You are not worried about your nieces and nephews. So fine, worry about me. I'll be a widow. Amar le almanosecha alai tivtachu. Let your widows trust in me. Again, referring to Hashem, I believe. So nach nafshe de Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. So Reish Lakish passed away. Hava kamitz dayer Rabbi Yochanan basrei tuva. Rabbi Yochanan was so upset about this. Amru Rabbanan, Rabbi say, Man lezel liyasvei daite. Who's going to go and try and comfort him? So Nezel Rabbi Elazar ben Padas. Rabbi Elazar ben Padas is going to go to Mechaded in Shmat to say, because he is very sharp. And so as a result, he will be able to help. So Azal Yosef Kamei. So Rabbi Elazar sat in front of him. The Kimilsa to have Amr Rabbi Yochanan, and anytime Rabbi Yochanan would say something, Amr like Rabbi Elazar would say, Tanya de Messiah, here's a proof, here's a brisa that proves you. Meaning he had great knowledge, but it was all being used to support Rabbi Yochanan. Amr Rabbi Yochanan said, Ad Kvar Lakisha, are you supposed to be like Reish Lakish? Bar Lakisha, Ki Haba Amina Milsa, whenever I would say something, Reish Lakish, Haba Makshik Li Esrin Va'arba Kushiyasa, he would ask me 24 questions. And Esrin v'arba peruke, and I would have to give him 24 answers. Umimela rav chashmatza, and as a result, the Torah, that everything would become clearer. Tanya d'tayelach, and you're going to tell me what supports me? Atulo yadana d'shaper kamina. I know what I went. I know that what I said is right. Habaka azal b'karamane, and so as a result, Rabbi Yochanan tore his clothes. The kabachi v'amar, and he cried, Heika at bar Lakisha, Heika at bar Lakisha. Where are you, Reish Lakish? I miss you so much. V'haba katsabak, and he would cry out, Ad deshav daite mine, until finally he lost his sanity. Bo Rabbanan Rachmana alei. So the rabbis prayed for mercy on him, Benach Nafi, and he died. So the question that Rav Chaim Shmulevitz asks is, I don't understand, why didn't they pray for him to get well? And the answer is that without good students, without that relationship of a study partner, then the Rabbi Yochanan's life had no meaning. And so as a result, and that's Rabbi Yochanan. And by the way, we were citing the Gemara in Brachos earlier. So the Gemara in Brachos on Dav Hey Amabet notes that Rabbi Yochanan suffered the loss of 10 sons, and yet he did not have suffered this mental breakdown as a result. And so we see that how important it is to have somebody that one can relate to in some ways. That's more important than anything else. Okay, so now we turn to Pei Dalet Amabet, and we continue with our stories. So
Like I mentioned in Pirkei Avot, it's an Elach Rav Asilach Asaveh, right?
Yes, absolutely, 100%, exactly right. The Afilu Hachi, even so, Lo Samach Rabbi Lazar. So now we go back. So this was all one big aside on Rabbi Yochanan. And now the Gemara returns to the story of Rabbi Lazar ben Shimon. So the police officer. And he's going to still be worried that he was convicting innocent people, so he's going to accept upon himself physical suffering. But notwithstanding everything that we've talked about, Lo Samach Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Shimon Adaite. He was not, he didn't want to use his own reasoning to say that he had not accidentally killed somebody who shouldn't have been killed. So as a result, so he accepted on himself suffering. So Ba'urta Havu Maichile, at night they would give him Shitin Namte, 60 layers of felt. That's how much how many cushions he needed in order to be able to get comfortable, because he was so afflicted with illness. Litzafra, and then in the morning, Negde Mutuse, they would draw the blood from all of these wounds that were, and the Shitin Mishkele Dama Bachiva, and he would have 60 basins of blood and pus. Lamakar, the next day, Abdullah Devesu, and then the next day his wife prepared for him Shitin Mine Lifta, 60 kinds of lifta. Rashi says that this is kind of some kind of food that they made from dates. And that would get him well. But his wife would not, given how sick he was, he wouldn't let him go. To go out of the house and to go to the Beit Midrash.
I think Ta'anim are figs. You said dates. Tamarim are dates.
Oh, figs. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think that Ta'anim can also be used to mean dates, but in any event, you're right that here it says figs. So Kiheki Rabbanan. Because she didn't want the rabbis to push him, and because he wasn't in good health, that would potentially adversely affect his health. Bu'urta Amrlu, in the evening, he would say to Amrlu, Rashi says the first of the narrow lines, L'machovav, he would speak to his wounds, and he would say to them, Achai v'rei, my brothers and friends, Bo, please come, come. But Safra Amrlu, and in the morning he would say to them, Zilu b'bnei bittul Torah, go away so that I can study Torah. So he would welcome the afflictions on himself. So Yom Echad Shama Devesu. So his wife heard him, and so here they were going through this multi-day process of illness and recovery, and she's now realizing that all of this effort was not because of just the nature, but because he brought it on himself. So Amrullah, she said to him, Ad kamaisis lo you're bringing it on yourself. Kalis mamon shel bezaba, and you took all the money away from my father's house, meaning my father has supported us in order for you to go through this. Imrida, so she rebelled. Azul lebeis nasa, and she goes back to her father's house. Suliku va'asu hanach shitin safone, and so a group of 60 sailors came. Ailile shitin oven, and they gave Rebbe Lazar 60 slaves. And Rashi explains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down in the narrow lines of Rashi. Ailule shitin abdi lefisha amad alehem nichshol shel yam. Some danger came in the sea. V'hisbalu, and they praised lihinatzel b'schuto shel Rebbe Lazar, that the zechus of Rebbe Lazar should allow them to be saved. V'nitzulu, and they were saved b'schuto, in his merit. So when they got out of the sea, sholchu lo doron, they sent him a present. And not only were the slaves 60 slaves, but they were holding 60 bags of money. And they would prepare for him the 60 kinds of fig-based meals that would help his health. And he would eat it. One day, his wife said to her daughter, their daughter, Zili Baki Bavu, go look at check in on your dad. Micah Abid, what's going on with him today? Asya, she went to him. Amarla, and he said to her, Zili Imri Le'imit, go tell your mom. Shalanu Gadol Mishalahem. Ours is greater than theirs. Meaning, if you believe in the Torah and then you're going to get the greater reward. Kari Anafshe. And so he said about himself that the following pasuk applies. Right, that the Torah is like a merchant's ships. From afar, she brings her sustenance, meaning that these foreign ships out of nowhere have brought me everything that I need in order to avoid poverty. So as a result, he ate and he drank and he got back his strength. And because his wife wasn't there any longer to stop him, he went to the Beit Midrash. So they brought in front of him 60 samples of blood. Tarinhu, meaning that women who had some kind of mara, some kind of a site of blood, they wanted to check: is this blood a blood that causes them to become tameh, or do they remain tahor? And he said all of them were tar. Hava kamaranane rabbanan v'amri. Salka daitech leisbehu chad safek. 1 second. Is there not one uncertain case in all of these 60 cases? How is it possible that all 60 cases are tahor? So Amar lahu, he said to them, Im kamosihu, if I'm right, you kulam zacharim, all of these women are going to have boys. V'im lav, and if not, Tehein the cave achas b'neim. All right, let at least one girl happen, and hayu kulam zacharim. But yet they were all boys. V'asiku lahu Rabbi Lazar al shmei, and all of these women recognized that the only reason that they were able to conceive is because Rebbe Lazar had said that their blood that they showed was actually tahor and not tameh, and so they all called their sons after Rebbe Lazar. So Tanya, so we lot in Tanya Brisa, Rebbe said about this experience, Kama Pirya Arivia Bitla Risha Zu Mi Israel. How much procreation? How many children were lost as a result of the evil regime? Now, the evil regime could be one of two things. Either it could be Rashi offers both options. It could be that it's referring to the fact that Rebbe Lazar was a police officer and therefore was stuck not doing police work, and therefore wasn't able to be in the base midrash all the time. Or it could refer to his wife, who stopped him when he was sick from going to the Beit Midrash. So those are the two possibilities. But so now Rabbi Lazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, was dying.
So they're referring to his wife as a Rasha? Is that it?
Yes, because she didn't allow him to go to the Beit Midrash. That again, that is only one interpretation. It's the second interpretation offered by Rashi. If you take a look at the Rashi Risha Zu, that you can see Lishna Achrisa Lashon Acher Al Ishto Sheikavto Melavo Beit Hamidrash Shanim Rabot, that she prevented him from going to the Beit Midrash for many years. So that's because again, she was concerned for his health, but in fact, he was healthy enough to go to the Beit Midrash. Okay,
but she separated from him, right?
Well, she eventually separated from him because she realized that that he was bringing all of this on himself. And again, she clearly did not have necessarily the right priorities, and that also is emphasized in that statement. Okay, kihavu kanicha nafshe. So now Rabbi Lazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, was dying. They again, because of the daughter checking on him, the wife came back to him. So Amar la defisu. So he says to his wife, Yadana b'derabanan derisiche alai. I know the rabbis are angry at me for, of course, having been a police officer. Below me aske beishapir, and they're not going to take care of me properly. So Ogden b'ilosai. When I die, put me in, lay me down in the attic. Below tidchalin minai, and don't be afraid of as a result of me. Meaning, don't worry about me rotting or anything, because you'll see what's going to happen. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says, Ishtaya li imi the Rabbi Yochanan, the Rabbi Yonasan. The Rabbi Yonasan's mother told me the Ishtay la the Vesu the Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon, that Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon's wife, had told her lo pachot mitamne srei. It was at least 18 years. Below Tfei Esrin Utrei Shnin. And it was not more than 22 years, but somewhere in there, Ognise Bi'ilise. I let him be in the attic. Kihava Salikna, and I would go up to the attic, Ma'ainana Le Bamazye, and I would take a look at his hair. Kihava Mishtamta Binisa Mine. And when some hair would fall out, Hava Asti Dama, blood would come out, meaning that the body was still fresh. One day I saw a worm, the kanavig miune, that was coming out of his ear. I became upset. Does that show that maybe he's decaying? So it's and he came to me in a dream, Amarli, and he said, Lo midihu, don't worry about it. That's nothing. One day I heard people speaking ill of somebody who was studying Torah, and lo michai kidibaili, and I didn't protest the way I should have. Bottom line is, if you hear somebody talk about somebody in a not nice way, you should say, don't talk about people in a not nice way. Kihavu asu betrei ladina. When two people would come for judgment, they would come to the house. Havu kaime abava, and they would stand at the gate of his house. Amar mar milsei. Mumar Milse, each one would state their case. Nafik Kalama Elisa Amar, and a voice would come out of the attic. Ish Ploni Atachayev, you certain person are Chayev. Ish Ploni Atazaika, you person are the meritorious one. So he would basically rule for them in these cases. Now commentaries, specifically the Maratz Chayes notes here in the footnote here that how could this work, because don't we say lo b'shamayim and isn't
like
the
a bat call? So something like a bat call here.
Yeah, exactly, something like a bat call. So but he suggests that this was only in connection with monetary matters, and in monetary matters you have the ability to give it over to basically whomever you want if you agree. All right, so Yom Echad, one day. So how did the guy get buried? Because of course, as Charlie noted, Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon is buried with his father Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. So Havaka Minsa Devisu Bahadi Shibavta, that the wife was arguing with her neighbor Amrullah, and the neighbor said to her, Tehekevala. You should be like your husband, meaning you should shalom nitan lekvura, who never got a chance to be buried. So now all of a sudden, now it was clear that Amri Rabban and the rabbi said, Kuli hai. 1 second. That it shows that to such an extent, vadai lav orach ara. If it's so bad that people are using the treatment of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon as a curse, then we shouldn't be doing that. We need to get him buried. So Ika de Amri, and some people say that what happened was not just this woman cursed, but maybe alternatively, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, itchazilahu v'chalma. He came to all of the rabbis in a dream, and Amrlu, and he said to them, listen, I only have one child, one son. And you don't want to bring him to me. So the rabbis realized that they needed to deal with him. But the people in the town didn't want to let him go. Because for the entire time that he was up there in that attic, no wild animals came into the city. All kinds of wild animals. Well, let's say lions. No lions came into the city. In the olden days, lions could come into the city potentially. So Yom Echad Male Yom Kippur. It was the day before Yom Kippur, and so at Havu Tride, everybody was busy. So Shadru Rabbanan Livnei Bire. So as a result, the rabbi sent the people from Biri to take the guy up. And so they took him and they brought him to the cave of his father. And they found a serpent was circling the cave, not letting anybody in it. Amrullah, snake, please open up your mouth. And let the son come next to his father. And the serpent opened up, and everything was wonderful. Shalach Rabbi L'daber B'ishto. So Rabbi went to try and potentially reach out and marry Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon's wife. Shalchalei, she said back, no, I'm sorry. Kalish and Ishtamish Bo Kodesh Ishtamish Bo Chol is something that I was so I was already with somebody who is so holy. I'm supposed to be with somebody who's not. So Tamad Amrin. So there they said that Ba'asar Demari Besa Talazaine, that the spot where the Lord once hung his weapon, Kulba Raya Kulze Tala. Now you're going to have a shepherd hang his bag. No, Shalach, that doesn't work. Shalach la. So Rebbe said 1 second. Listen, I know that he was greater than me in Torah. But But 1 second, I'm such a good person. I take care of people, etc. You from a good deed perspective, you should recognize me, and then I'm better than him. Shalchalei, she said to him, she said back to Rebbe, no, but Torah mi gadol mi lo yadana. I have no knowledge of whether he was greater than you in Torah, but b'maasim yadana. But when it comes to the good deeds, I know. Why? Because he accepted on himself suffering. So, but Torah mai. Now, we said that even Rebbe agreed that Rebbe Elazar was better than him in Torah. So how did he know that? So, because we have this following story. The Kihavu Yatve Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha Asafsale. So Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha, they would sit on the study benches, as they were studying Torah. And Yosvi Kamayu, Rebbe Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Ara, and Rebbe Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, and Rebbe would sit on the ground. Makshu Mefarku. And they would, the students would ask questions, and they would answer the questions. Amre. And so the rabbis all said, Meimei and Anushosim, we're benefiting, we're drinking from their water, meaning that they are teaching us Torah, because Torah is referred to as water. Ein Mayim el Torah. So Behem Yoshvim al Gabe Hakarka, and yet we're having them sit on the ground. So Avdalahu Safsale Askinu. So they made benches and they let them sit on benches like the regular rabbis. So Amar Lahen Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said to them, one second, Prida achas yeshli b'nechem. And of course, Rebbe is the son of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. So listen, I am concerned because I have one child among you. And you're causing me to lose him because I'm worried. Again, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel was the Aviv of Shel Rabbi, as Rashi says 3 lines up from the bottom. And the point is that you're going to cause him to have everything go to his head, and as a result, he's going to have the wrong attitude. So achtu l'Rebbe. So they moved Rebbe down. So Amar lahen Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha said to them, Mishi yeshlo av yichya. One second, are we going to help out Rebbe because he has a father who complained? Umishi ein lo av yamut, and Rabbi Elazar ben the son of Rabbi Shimon, we're going to cause him to die because he's going to have everything go to his head, and he's not going to he'll go off the derech as a result of that. And so achtu nami Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon. So as a result, they lowered Rabbi Elazar the son of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Elazar the son of Rabbi Shimon became very upset by this. Amar kachashvisu leikavasi. They must have thought me basically the comparable to Rebbe. Ad hahu yoma. Now, until that day, ki hava amar Rebbe Milsa. Whenever Rebbe would say something, hava Messiah lay Rebbe Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Rebbe Elazar son Rabbi Shimon would support him. Mikan ve'ela. But from that point on, ki hava amar Rebbe yeshli lahashib. Whenever Rebbe would say something that he had some kind of a point to raise, amar lay Rebbe Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Rebbe Elazar the son of Rabbi Shimon would say kach l'kach yesh lacha lahashib. This is what you want to raise. Zohi chuvascha, and this is the answer to it. Hashta hikaftanu chuvas chavilos, and you've given us a bunch of objections she'ein bahem mamish that have no substance. Your questions are not good questions. So now all of a sudden it's clear that Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar is Rabbi Elazar the son of Rabbi Shimon. Excuse me, Rabbi Elazar the son of Rabbi Shimon is the one who has a greater Torah knowledge than Rebbe. So Cholosh daiti the Rebbe, and Rebbe became upset. Asa Amar lay alavua, and he told his dad, "Listen, I don't know what to do about this because explaining that he had begun getting support from Rabbi Elazar the son of Rabbi Shimon, and now he wasn't. So Amar lay, the father said to him, Bini, al yera lach, don't be upset. Shehu Ari ben Ari, he's a lion, the son of a lion, meaning his father was Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. V'ata Ari ben Shual, and you're just the lion, the son of a fox. I'm only Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, of course, was a great rabbi, but he recognized in the greatness of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai that he was even greater. So Dahainu da Amar Rebbe, and that's why Rebbe said Shlosha an Vasainin Hain. There were 3 really humble people, the Eluhain, and these were they. Abba, my father, because notwithstanding the fact that he was Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he recognized the greatness of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Uvnei Beseira, the sons of Beseira, Yonasan ben Shaul, and Yonasan, the son of Shaul, who was David's friend. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel had Amran. We have already the story of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, how humble he was because he called himself a fox relative to Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Bnei Beseira to Amar Mar. When it comes to the Bnei Beseira, that's the following story. Hoshivu Barosh. They sat Hillel at the head. Uminua lenasi alein, and he pointed that, and they appointed him the nasi, meaning the Bnei Beseira were the heads of the people in Israel, and they didn't know the answer to a question. They didn't know, does the Korban Pesach override Shabbos or not? And so they were told that there's this Hillel in Babel who knows the answer. So they called Hillel to come to Israel. Hillel gave them the answer, and they stepped down as Nasi and put him in charge. Yonasan ben Shaul, and when it came to Yonasan, he was very humble to Amar Leila David, because he told David, "Va'atatim locha Yisrael, va'anochi lecha lemishneh." I'm going to be second to you, even though my father is king. I am going to put myself below you. Mimai, how do I know that those other cases were cases of humility? Dilma Yonasan ben Shaul, the Chazi de Garir Alma Basar David. He saw that everyone was already following David. So maybe he was just trying to get a better position than he might otherwise have gotten. So he became David's friend. B'nai is, and notwithstanding David being, his potential replacement. B'nai Beseira Nami, and when it came to the children of Beseira, they saw that Hillel was better than them. But when it came to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he certainly was an Anav. So we're going to pause there, and now we're going to, because we've now finished that story, but we're not done with our stories for the week. So the next we're going to say, what lesson did Rebbe take away from the experience of being rejected by Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon's wife? So that's going to be that's what we're going to hear for tomorrow. So stay tuned for tomorrow's daf.
Was this the story in Psachim where they asked,
Yeah.
how they should carry the knife for the Korban Pesach, and Hillel said, follow the people, and they would stick the knife in the side of the sheep, and as the sheep walked to the Beit HaMikdash for.
It is part of that story, I believe. Well, part of that story. This is the story itself is in Psachim daf Samech Vav Amud Aleph. So, but yes, I believe that you're absolutely right.
Yasher Koch, I won't be here tomorrow. I'm teaching an early class.
All right. Well, we'll miss you. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.